welcome to Everything Football Show. The show where we talk about everything football. My name is Olabanji, and I'm here with J-Boy. We are going to be starting with a brief recap on the Champions League matches that were played on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then we'll move to the Europa League fixtures that were played, and Europa League results that were played on Thursday, and the Conference League results that were played on matches that were played on Thursday. So far, J-Boy, this year's Champions League, the games that have been played so far, how have you been feeling about them? Has it been living up to the hype?
Well, aside from the Spanish victims and Bayern, that's Barca, Bayern, and Madrid, the rest of the big teams have been unstable in the Champions League with mixed results for Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, and the likes. There have been a lot of twists and turns, a lot of unpredictability.
Yeah, so on Tuesday, Victoria Plzen played Inter Milan. They lost at home to Inter Milan 2-0. Inter had a very good start to the season, but they were able to win. They lost their last game against Bayern Munich.
Which was expected.
Yeah, definitely. So now they are on 3 points with Barcelona. Interesting how that league is going to... Who do you tip coming out of the league? Coming out first and second?
Bayern and probably Barcelona. I don't think Inter right now they are there to compete in the Champions League at this level, and they've been put in, unfortunately, with Barcelona and Bayern, who are in a better position than them right now. I think they'll be in Europa by next year.
All right. In that same group, Bayern faced Barcelona. It was a game of halves.
Yeah.
Barca had a very good first half. Bayern, they were more clinical than Barcelona, so they won the game 2-0. What's your thoughts about the game?
I think Xavi has to ask his players, the whole team, how they did not score one at least.
They had a lot of chances.
They were very poor in front of goal. Very poor.
And defensively, they were poor too. But they controlled the game.
They controlled the first half. Yeah. They had the better chances first half.
Yeah. All right. Sporting Lisbon won, surprisingly, against Spurs.
Yeah, they were undone by an ex-graduate from the academy.
Spurs won their first game, thankfully, because if Chancel Mbeba hadn't collected that red card against them that match, that might probably have ended as a draw.
It just continues Conte's wonderful record in Champions League. He has a very terrible record.
Yeah.
What's ironic.
Then in that same, moving on, Liverpool played against Ajax, and I guess that's their best game so far this season because they totally dominated Ajax in that game, and they won courtesy of a late goal by Matip 2-1. What was your thought about the game?
I think nobody can be happier with the break they got from the Queen's Dead than Jurgen Klopp because he has had more time to get his message across to his players, and this was a very good display compared to the rest, what they've been doing this season. Yeah.
So Rangers lost again, woefully, to Napoli, who have been very, very impressive so far this season. What's your thought?
That is -7 from 2 games. That is they're on course to be bottom of the group.
Definitely, because they're playing Liverpool next. Their next 2 games is against Liverpool.
I won't be surprised if they come out with -14 after that.
And moving on, Leverkusen won their first game in the Champions League this season against Atletico Madrid, Atletico Madrid were terrible.
They were terrible in the first game as well.
Yeah. As they've been all through since the start of the season anyway.
Almost towards the end of last season. They brought that from here.
And they lost 2-0 to Leverkusen, who they are struggling in their league. I think they are 17th on the table.
Yeah, Leverkusen haven't been good as well. I think it is clear it is time for Simeone to go. they have to bring a more progressive manager.
A modern manager.
Yeah, he has done his part.
Because even his style is failing him. They are conceding a lot of goals now compared to before, where they don't concede but they score just 1 or 2 and see it out.
I think the main thing is that he's stifling so much talent, especially the money they spent on someone like João Felix. He has turned him to something else. Then there's Rodrigo De Paul. He has totally taken away the creativity, the guile of the player. It's a shame. He has to go. He just has to go. I think the club has realized he has done his part and it's time to bring on someone else.
Yeah. Moving on, AC Milan won against Dinamo Zagreb 3-1. I mean, I was disappointed in the first game from AC Milan. They drew 1-1 to Salzburg. But, interestingly, they won against Zagreb, which it was a little bit close. The scoreline doesn't reflect the performance on the pitch, but good for them. They won 3-1. And Chelsea drew against Salzburg at home. It was also a close game. Salzburg proved to be a thorn in their side. So, what's your thought about this Chelsea squad and their new manager and the old manager and their new owner and all has been saying in the press?
I think the Chelsea fans, they have to be very careful with their new owner, because with what I've seen, what he has done, he appears to me to be someone that is very impulsive. To me, it's like a fan being made manager. You can't back somebody in the transfer market and sack him after 6 games. It doesn't make sense. So you are bringing in a new manager now to come and work with players that are not his, and they will struggle this season. I expect them to struggle till maybe January, when Potter's ideas can start sinking in. Because this was a game for them to win, and I don't think they've seen any improvement.
But then I also feel like Potter stands to gain from this current break. They didn't play last week.
Yes.
They're not going to play this weekend till October.
I think Potter.
So he has about like 2.5 weeks to at least implement something.
Yes.
And it's not like Chelsea don't have quality. They have quality players in every position, so they should, easily understand what he's trying to impact to them.
I think Liverpool, Manchester United, and Chelsea have really benefited from the break.
Because next month there won't be time after the international break. They're going to play 13 games in 6 weeks. So they need to figure out how they're going to be moving forward. Yeah, so up next was City played Dortmund. I won't say a one-sided game. At the same time, I won't say it was a close game, but it was Dortmund's performance was a big surprise to most people. But City won the game 2-1, courtesy of Haaland's goal in the second half, late goal anyway. Then let's talk about your beloved Juventus and Allegri. They lost again. They've not won their last 4 games in all competitions. They've lost 2 out of the last 4 games. And they lost at home again against Benfica. Outplayed again.
I'm not surprised. I think Allegri, from last season, from what you've heard, they can't afford to even sack him. Because if Tuchel is out of a job, this guy really needs to be out of a job. And they will continue like this. They will struggle to make Champions League football if they can't get rid of this guy. Because they struggled against Salernitana, struggled against Fiorentina. They've not dominated any match they played this season.
Since last season, in fact.
I think he has to go. He has to go.
Especially now that a top manager like
Pochettino is free.
Pochettino, Tuchel, they are available. They should really.
Zidane is still there. Zidane will probably consider going back to Juve because he's a legend in Juventus. I'm sure if the France job doesn't become available after the World Cup, he will seriously consider Juventus.
So moving on to the Europa League, Manchester United faced Sheriff Tiraspol yesterday. It was an okay game from Man U, although their opponents, threatened to score in the second half. Ten Hag hasn't impressed me in terms of his in-game management. I think he's still doing a lot of learning on the job. And fixtures Man U have from between October and November, he won't have time to be experimenting comfortably like he has been. But they won the game. Do you have any thoughts about the match?
Well, after the first half, after they took the 2-0 lead in first half, second half was pretty boring. Man United didn't.
I mean, they kept possession, but
Yeah,
they
but
didn't do anything with it. They didn't
anything with it.
threaten with it. They didn't threaten the opposition.
But I think it's fair to say the opposition they didn't come out to like try and do something in the match as well. So
then Sociedad won their game against Omonia Nicosia 2-1. So Sociedad are leading currently with 6 points. Man U second with 3 points. Olympiacos lost against Freiburg 3-0. I mean, I expected this game to be a close game. I didn't think Freiburg would dominate the game the way they dominated, and the scoreline reflected the performance on the pitch. Monaco lost at home to Monaco lost at home.
Ferencváros.
Yeah, they lost at home. I think Paul Clement, is going to be sacked. I think he's going to, because they are seventh on the table. They've not won two successive games in the league. I think they've only won 2 successive games once this season. One in the league and one in the Europa League. So I think eventually it might have to leave, because even last season they sort of underperformed last season too. But it's interesting to see how they shape up after the international break. Stade Rennais drew against Fenerbahce, 2-2 draw. Quite an interesting game. Roma won 3-0. Betis also won 3-2. A close game, against Ludogorets. Braga won against Union Berlin 1-0. That's another surprising game, because Union Berlin, they are topping the league in Bundesliga, and they've been on fire so far this season.
I think I'm just surprised they didn't score.
Yeah. Then the last game, Midtjylland versus Lazio. Lazio were thumped. It was a shambolic performance from Sarri side.
They had a lot of players being rested, but
a lot of like about 3 goals were like defensive errors.
Yeah. It was a team that they just put together for this match. I think Savic and the important players were on the bench. They didn't make the changes early enough, and it was too late when they came on. I think Savic got the only goal for them.
Yeah, reflection. Then in the Conference League, Istanbul Başakşehir won against Fiorentina. Another heavy loss to Fiorentina 3-0. This was a surprise also. I mean, Başakşehir, they dominated the game from the start to the finish, and the scoreline reflects. And Fiorentina didn't even get a goal. And that's terrible. I mean, so far this season, they've not been impressive. You think the kind of form they ended last season with the players that were brought in over the summer, you think the manager would, really impress. But there are still a lot of games to be played this season.
I saw them against Juventus. They played well. Then I guess anybody can play.
Anybody plays well against Juventus these days. Then Sikkeborg lost to West Ham 3-2 in the Conference League. It was a surprise to me. I didn't think this amount of goals would be scored in that game. I thought it was going to be like a 2-0 win, comfortable win for West Ham. But West Ham had to work for this win.
Yeah, it left Moyes very furious.
Apoel Beersheva lost against Villarreal 2-1. I expected more goals from Villarreal in this game, but you can never predict Europa League, Conference League games this season.
There are a lot of rotations.
Yeah.
So I never tell.
Then Partizan Belgrade drew against Nice 1-1. I didn't think goals will be scored in this game anyway. But interesting to see that Partizan Belgrade can hold Nice to a. But then talking about Nice for briefly, they lost their manager to PSG.
No, that was Lille.
No, it's Nice. Lille won the league with Gautier. Then he left to Nice last season, and they lost about like two starters. They brought in Aaron Ramsey. They brought in Ross Barkley.
Nicolas Pepe.
They brought in Pepe. But then their manager is a suspect, Lucien Favre. Interesting to see, Sha. Hopefully, he's going to do well for them.